All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I am here with Rick Sparks, product specialist with Agco Manufacturing, and he's going to introduce us to the Momentum planter by Fendt. And we've been playing around out here today, and this is a pretty cool machine. And so he's just going to show us some of the key features and benefits, and we'll get more footage as the season goes. But Rick, what are we working with here?
Well, thanks, John, for coming out today. Just wanted to show this planter to some guys here, and we'll start at the hitch. One of the unique things with this planter is that most of the hydraulic functions required for this planter are going to be ran off of the power beyond of the tractor. So that decreases the amount that the customer has to try to monitor the hydraulic flows on his tractor to become most efficient. This planter will only use the hydraulics that's required when it needs it. So it's done by hooking up to the Power Beyond power hose, the return hose, a load sense, and the case drain. And that will control our raise and lower of the planter row units. It controls the central fill blower. It controls our vac fan, as well as our load logic weight transfer. So that's all ran off of Power Beyond. The only thing required off of a tractor remote will be for Delta Force. So that would be the only remote, unless your planter is equipped with the high lift hitch, which requires a second remote. Yep. And on this particular planter, John, we're running load logic, which is not only does it do weight transfer, but it also does tire inflation. So we're using the air compressor.
Whoop.
The air compressor off the tractor to fill our tires as we need it.
Nice.
Or we let the air out too. So
okay, cool.
Yep. As we go back to the planter here, we have a centrifugal. Well, first we have a 1,000-gallon tank, liquid tank. So we have high volume of liquid. A centrifugal pump controlled by a V-Apply base module. So the 2020 monitor is going to control the pump to get the correct flow that it needs for the rate and the speed and the planter width. So that's all done through the 2020. As we come on back to the planter, as you can tell, our tires are really squatty. Right now we're running about 18 pounds of air in these mainframe tires. We have about 40% capacity in each one of our seed tanks, which each seed tank holds 65 units. So we have about 40% capacity there, and we're running down about 18 pounds on the mainframe tires. And when we put it into balanced, meaning that each axle, each spindle receives the same amount of weight, these tires are running about 16 pounds right now. So if we were to fill with liquid and fill with seed, you would see that tire inflation automatically inflate because of the more weight on the planter.
Sure.
So we never run the tires lower than the manufacturer's suggested pressures for the amount of weight. But as our weight decreases, as we run liquid and seed out of the planter, our tires deflate to give us a wider footprint, less compaction, and a better condition. So as you can see here, we run one tire out on the wing and our inline tandems. Our inline tandems perform very similar to track when it comes to the flotation. As you were looking at that, our inline tandems have a smaller tire in the front, a larger one in the back. Part of the reason for that was we needed clearance when we fold this frame out. So we went with the smaller tire, but we also found that this front tire is going to hold and carry about 40% of the weight between the two of them. So that front tire is always trying to come up out of the mud if you get in the mud situation.
Sure. The spindle mount isn't right in the dead center.
No. Nope. So it's always trying to walk up out of a hole.
Okay.
So that works very well. I've personally ran a planter similar to this in peat ground next to a track planter, and this thing did awesome. when I went back and evaluated the tracks from the track planter and the tracks from this planter, I would say they were very similar. If not, this one was a little better.
Sure. And these we can run at the 34 miles an hour down the road.
Yes, because once we fold this planter up, there's a sensor that knows when it's going into road, into transport. It starts inflating the tires, and it will inflate the tires to 55 pounds so that we can travel down the road at the 33 or 35 mile an hour.
Nice.
So each spindle, as we talked about earlier, is a smart spindle. So it has a weigh cell embedded into the spindle, so it knows how much weight each spindle is carrying on it. As well as it has a port through the center of the spindle for the air to come out, which gives us our tire inflation. So we call that our smart spindles. You're able to, in the cab, with the touch of a button, go from balanced, which is it looks at how much weight's on each spindle, and it will balance the weight equally between the spindles, to controlled traffic, which it will only put 900 pounds on these outside wheels at all times. So it brings the weight back into the center for guys that are going to do tram lines and want controlled traffic. So that's an option in there, as well as manual or shut it off.
Okay.
So that's the 4 options on the monitor.
Now the row units look like a normal row unit, but our frame does not look like a normal frame.
Correct. So designing this toolbar, in order to get enough travel for anytime we put the wheels out front on a planter and the seed drop is behind it, anytime you go over an obstacle, you have to have enough travel to keep that row unit in the ground. So what we came up with for an answer was we run sensors on our parallel link arms that we're sensing where level is, and as our parallel link arms become out of level, it sends a signal up, and it will change on our flipper cylinders the height of this toolbar frame. So it's always trying to keep them parallel link arms level no matter what the front main frame does.
So then what kind of range does it give?
So we have 16 inches of parallel link arm movement from top to bottom, 16 inches. And I believe it's about 48 to 50 inches from one side of the planter to the other. So in between the 3 sections.
Okay.
What we're looking at here is the Momentum UT or virtual terminal coming into your tractor terminal. And it doesn't matter what terminal you have. Most terminals are going to have a virtual terminal side to them. So it loads into your virtual terminal, touch it. We can make it full screen. So at the top we have, this is our central fill blower, telling us what percent we're running of central fill blower fan capacity. VAC, which is read in the 2020 monitor. And as we come down, we have our system pressure for our air pressure, what we have in our tank on our planter, how much pressure is in our center and wing wheels. If you wanted to change it manually, you can do it here. It's set to auto right now, so it knows it's in the field. It's going to run low tire pressures. The next one is a road. It's going to inflate our tires up to 55 pounds on the main frame so that we can get the transport speeds we want. You can do it manually. You can shut it off or turn it back to auto. On the right hand side we have, this is the seed level indicators. We have sensors giving us the seed levels. We have 43% in the left tank and 44% in the right tank. The center is, if we had liquid, it would tell us a percentage left of liquid. You can also touch them, and if you set it up correctly, you would have how much time you could have left to plant before you run out, based off of your productivity. So this one here is our load logic screen. So right now we're running in the balanced, so it's registering the same amount of weight on each spindle outside on the planter. If we hit it once, that goes to the controlled traffic where it's going to pull weight off of the wings and bring it back to the center tires so that you have only one area of any compaction. You can also do it manually. If you had a manual setting you'd rather use, you can shut it off. There is an auto lift function, so if you do your headlands and they are recorded coverage on your 2020, if you turn on auto lift here, the auxiliary button on the master switch box, when it comes to your headlands and covered area, it will automatically lift the row units once the last row unit is done planting.
Now the fun part, we get to drive it, take it for a spin. So it's just a normal 2020 monitor.
Yep.
That we can also manually fold and unfold our switches down there.
The tractor joystick, being that it's a Fendt tractor, I think it's one of the only tractors that I am aware of that we can assign the ISO functions on our joystick. So I'm using the red and the green buttons on the joystick, which would normally be a remote, to run the ISO for the fold and raise and lower.
That's our Delta downforce page, and what we got is from the beet harvest is all your semi-traffic. So right here you got a couple lanes of semi-ruts, and out there you got a couple lanes of semi, and in between is lighter soil, and we can see how the Delta force is doing its job to maintain the row units, that everybody's maintaining depth and down pressure consistently across the width of the planter.
Lift function.
That was auto lift.
I never raised it.
So we're to that point now that we don't have to hit the button on the headland to raise a planter anymore.
We do have to turn the wheel, and we do have to hit the down button to put the row units back down.
We're going to take a look at Auto Turn Assistant. We're in an MT743. The planter's right over here behind us. And so Mark, from another product specialist from Agco, has it set up, and when we hit the headland, then it will spin us around. It will shut off our hydraulic as we need to. It will slow us down. We'll do the turn, and coming back out of the turn, it will resume our speed, resume our guidance, and reactivate our hydraulics. No hands on the wheel. And you can see the red trigger there has a little minus symbol next to it. So it is lowering for 5 seconds, and then we resumed speed back to the preset cruise.